The microphone slipped from Steve Harvey's hand, hitting the studio floor with a metallic clang that echoed through the Family Feud set. In 30 years of television, nothing had prepared him for what just happened. The cameras kept rolling, but the show had stopped being a game. It had become something else entirely, a bridge between a war zone and a television studio, between a father's duty and a son's love. 8-year-old Jake Martinez stood at the family podium, his small hand still reaching toward where Steve's microphone had been. His question hung in the air like a prayer. "Mr. Steve, can you tell my daddy something?" The entire studio fell silent. 300 people held their breath, and somewhere in Afghanistan, Staff Sergeant Miguel Martinez was watching live, having no idea his world was about to change forever. The Martinez family had driven 18 hours from San Antonio to Atlanta in their aging Honda Civic. Jake's mother, Carmen, worked double shifts as a nurse while Miguel served overseas. His grandmother, Elena, had raised 5 children as a single mother and now helped raise Jake while his father was deployed. They were a military family that carried themselves with quiet dignity that spoke of sacrifice most people couldn't imagine. During family introductions, Jake had charmed everyone. "I'm Jake Martinez," he had said with a gap-toothed grin. "I'm 8 years old, and my daddy is a real hero. He's fighting bad guys in Afghanistan, so I can be safe here." Steve had knelt down to Jake's level. "That's right, young man. Your daddy is a hero. What do you want to be when you grow up?" "Just like him," Jake had replied. "I want to protect people too." The game progressed normally through 3 rounds. During the second round, Jake had surprised everyone by answering letters from home when Steve asked about soldiers' backpacks, earning the #1 spot on the board. But it was during the 4th round that everything changed. Steve asked, "Name something a hero does." Carmen stepped forward to answer, but Jake tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Mama," he whispered, "is Daddy watching?" "You said he might be watching today." Carmen's voice caught with emotion. "Yes, Micho. Daddy said he would try to watch. He said the whole base was excited to see you on TV." Jake looked around the studio, at the cameras, at the hundreds of watching faces, somewhere, thousands of miles away. His daddy might be watching this exact moment. "Mr. Steve," Jake called out, his small voice carrying across the studio with surprising clarity. Steve paused, drawn to the 8-year-old's earnest tone. "What's up, little man?" Jake looked directly at Steve, then at the cameras. "My daddy is watching right now. Mama told me he might be. Can you tell him something for me?" Steve set down his index cards. Something in Jake's voice made him realize this wasn't standard protocol anymore. "What do you want to tell your daddy, son?" Jake took a small step forward, unconsciously mirroring military bearing. "I want to tell him I love him, and that I'm being brave like he taught me, and I want him to come home safe, because I miss him really, really much." Behind the scenes, producer Sarah Chen made a split-second decision. "Keep rolling," she said firmly. "Keep rolling on everything." Steve looked at Jake, then at the cameras, then back at Jake. The studio was completely silent. Then Steve did something unprecedented. He handed his microphone to the competing family's patriarch and walked directly to Jake. "Jake," Steve said, kneeling down, his voice stripped of all performance. "Your daddy is watching right now?" Jake nodded solemnly. "Mama said, probably." Steve looked up at Carmen, tears forming in her eyes. "Mrs. Martinez, do you know if he's watching?" Carmen nodded. "He texted this morning. His unit was planning to watch together. They all wanted to see Jake on TV." Steve turned back to Jake. This wasn't television anymore. This was a father separated from his son by thousands of miles, connected only by love. "Jake," Steve said, "what if we could make sure your daddy hears exactly what you want to tell him?" Jake's eyes widened. "Really? Right now?" Steve nodded and stood up. Keeping one hand on Jake's shoulder, he looked directly into the main camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steve announced, his voice carrying gravity that transcended entertainment. "We're going to do something different today." He turned back to Jake. "Son, I want you to look right into that camera and tell your daddy exactly what's in your heart." Jake looked at the camera, his face serious with concentration. When Jake spoke, His voice was clear and strong. "Daddy, it's me, Jake. I'm on TV like you wanted. I'm being brave like you taught me. Remember when you said soldiers have to be brave even when they're scared? Well, I'm a little scared right now, but I'm being brave." He paused. "I'm taking care of Mama and Abuela, and I'm doing good in school. Mrs. Rodriguez says I'm the best reader in 2nd grade. I love you so much, Daddy, and I want you to come home safe. All the kids at school know my daddy is a hero, and I'm proud of you." Then Jake's voice wavered slightly. "Daddy, I have nightmares sometimes about the bad guys hurting you. But Mama says you're the strongest soldier, and God is protecting you. I pray for you every night with Abuela. She taught me prayers in Spanish, and I say them for you. Come home soon. Okay? I miss playing catch with you. I miss your hugs." The studio audience was completely silent. Several people were openly crying, but nobody was prepared for what happened next. In the production booth, assistant producer David Kim was frantically coordinating with military communications. "Steve," David's voice came through the host's earpiece. "We've got something special happening. Keep Jake right there." The studio's massive video screen flickered to life. Static appeared, then technical difficulties as satellite connections struggled across continents. The entire studio watched with bated breath, understanding they were witnessing something that had never been attempted before on live television. Slowly, a grainy image formed. A military communications room in Afghanistan. Desert camouflage netting hung in the background. American flags were visible on the walls. The sound of distant helicopters could be heard in the background. And sitting there, wearing desert camouflage and a headset, looking tired but smiling broadly with tears already forming in his eyes, was Staff Sergeant Miguel Martinez. The audience gasped audibly. Carmen brought both hands to her mouth, her legs nearly giving out. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Miguel, oh my God, it's really him." Elena grabbed Carmen's arm for support, her weathered hands trembling as she looked at the man who had become like a son to her. But Jake just stared in complete wonder, his 8-year-old mind struggling to process the impossible becoming possible right before his eyes. His father, who existed in photographs and bedtime phone calls and dreams, was suddenly right there, larger than life on the studio's massive screen. "Jake?" came Miguel's voice through the speakers, slightly delayed. "Is that really my boy? My strong, brave boy?" Jake's face broke into the biggest smile anyone had ever seen. "Daddy," he shouted. "Daddy, is that really you?" Miguel laughed through his tears. "It's me, Misho. It's really me. Seeing my boy on television is making this the best day I've had in months." Jake pressed closer to the screen. "Daddy, I can see you. You look different. You got skinnier. Are they feeding you enough?" Miguel's composure cracked at his son's innocent concern. "They're feeding me good, Jake. Don't worry about that. But hearing that Mama makes extra dinner, that makes my heart so happy. She's taking good care of you. The best care ever." Jake nodded vigorously. "She reads me stories every night, and she lets me sleep in your pillow sometimes when I have bad dreams. And Abuela teaches me Spanish words so I can talk to you better when you come home. I'm so proud of you, Jake," Miguel continued, his voice thick with emotion despite the static. "You're being so brave, and you're taking such good care of Mama and Abuela. You're the strongest boy I know." Jake pressed both hands against the screen. "Daddy, when are you coming home?" Miguel paused. "Soon, Misho. Very soon. But I need you to keep being brave until then." "Can you do that for me?" Jake nodded vigorously. "I will, Daddy. I promise." "Jake, I want you to know that every day I'm over here, I think about you. I carry your picture with me everywhere. You and Mama and Abuela, you're the reason I fight. You're the reason I get up every morning, because I want to come home to the best little boy in the world." The studio erupted in applause. Not typical television applause, but recognition of something profound. Steve Harvey found himself wiping tears from his eyes. Steve walked back to Jake. "Jake, do you want to tell your daddy anything else?" Jake thought for a moment. "Daddy, Mr. Steve Harvey is really nice, and he let me talk to you on TV. Can you thank him?" Miguel's voice came through the speakers. directed at Steve. "Mr. Harvey, sir, I can't thank you enough. You've just given me and my son something I never thought we'd have. This is the best gift anyone could give a soldier." Steve looked up at the screen, his composure cracking. "Sergeant Martinez, the honor is mine. Your son is extraordinary." That's when Steve made the gesture that would become legendary. He looked at his suit jacket, his lucky jacket worn to every taping for 5 years. This wasn't just any jacket. It was the one that had been with him through thousands of families, countless moments both triumphant and challenging. Slowly, deliberately, Steve began to remove the jacket. The studio watched in respectful silence. It was navy blue Armani, perfectly tailored, but in that moment, its monetary value was irrelevant. What mattered was what it represented: warmth, protection, a gesture of love. "Jake," Steve said, walking toward the boy with the jacket, "I want you to come here for a moment." Jake looked away from the screen, reluctantly. Steve knelt down and draped the jacket over Jake's small shoulders. "This jacket," Steve said, his voice thick with emotion, "has been with me for every show I've ever hosted. It's seen families win and lose. It's been part of celebrations and disappointments. But today, it's yours." The jacket was oversized on Jake's frame, but he stood straighter, as if it carried Steve's confidence and warmth. When you miss your daddy, when you're scared in the middle of the night, when you need to feel strong and brave like the soldier's son you are, you put this on. You remember that your daddy is a hero. You're a hero's son, and heroes take care of each other. On the screen, Miguel was openly weeping. "Mr. Harvey," he managed through his tears, "I don't know how to thank you. You've just given my son something I can't give him from here. A hug from someone who cares." Steve faced the camera directly. "Sergeant Martinez, the honor is all mine. You're fighting for all our children's freedom. The least I can do is make sure yours knows how much he's loved." Steve turned to address the entire studio. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the real meaning of heroism right here. Not just Sergeant Martinez, who serves our country with honor, but this little boy who's being brave every single day while his daddy is away." The applause was thunderous. The Johnson family crossed from their podium to embrace the Martinez family. Other families emerged from backstage to join the celebration. Even crew members were openly emotional. As the satellite connection began to fade, Miguel managed one last message. "Jake, I love you more than all the stars in the sky. Be good for Mama. Listen to Abuela, and remember that Daddy is coming home. I promise." "I love you too, Daddy," Jake called out as the screen went dark. Steve looked at both families. "Folks, I think we can agree that today, everyone's a winner." The story doesn't end there. What happened after the camera stopped rolling revealed the true character of everyone involved. Steve didn't just give Jake a jacket and move on to the next taping. That night, he personally called the Pentagon to ensure that Sergeant Martinez's command knew about the show and the impact it had. Military officials later said it was one of the most powerful morale boosts they'd ever witnessed for deployed troops. Steve worked with his foundation to provide ongoing support for the Martinez family during Miguel's deployment, ensuring they had everything they needed. He arranged for video calling equipment to be sent to Miguel's unit, funded family counseling sessions for Carmen to help her cope with the stress of military life, and even helped Elena get the medical care she needed for her arthritis. The jacket became Jake's most treasured possession. He wore it to school presentations about military families, where he would tell other children about the importance of supporting those who serve. He wore it when he spoke at Veterans Day ceremonies, his small voice carrying messages of hope and pride. And he wore it during the long nights when nightmares about his father's safety would wake him, finding comfort in the warmth and weight of something that represented love and protection. 3 months later, when Sergeant Martinez returned home from his deployment, Jake wore Steve's jacket to the homecoming ceremony at San Antonio International Airport. The sight of that small boy in an oversized jacket, scanning the crowd of soldiers for his father, became one of the most shared images on social media that year. The reunion was emotional beyond words. Miguel dropped to his knees as Jake ran into his arms, still wearing that oversized suit jacket. "I kept my promise, Daddy," Jake whispered. I was brave. I can see that, Miseo, Miguel replied. I'm so proud of you. The episode became the highest-rated Family Feud in the show's history. Not because of drama or conflict, but because of love, because of the reminder that behind every service member is a family making sacrifices, children being brave, spouses holding everything together with grace and strength. Military families across the country reached out to share their own stories. Support groups formed in communities nationwide. Churches organized prayer circles for deployed soldiers. Schools created pen pal programs, linking classrooms with military units overseas. The ripple effect of that one moment continued to spread for months. Steve's foundation established comprehensive programs specifically for military families, helping bridge the communication gap between deployed parents and their children. They provided video calling equipment to bases in remote locations, funded family counseling services, and created emergency assistance funds for military spouses facing unexpected hardships during deployments. The episode also changed the format of Family Feud itself. Steve instituted Hero Family Fridays, where military families, first responders, teachers, and other community heroes were given priority for show appearances. Each of these episodes concluded with a moment of recognition, a chance for America to thank those who serve in different capacities. Jake Martinez is now 10 years old, growing tall and strong like his father. Miguel completed his deployments 6 months after that unforgettable episode, and now serves stateside at Fort Sam Houston and San Antonio, ensuring he can be present for all the moments that matter. The family was able to buy their first home with the prize money from the show, a modest but comfortable place with a yard where Jake and Miguel play catch every evening after dinner. The jacket hangs carefully preserved in Jake's closet, wrapped in protective plastic that Carmen bought specially for it. Jake doesn't wear it anymore. He's grown too big. But on special occasions, on Father's Day, on Miguel's birthday, on the anniversary of the show, he takes it out and holds it, remembering that moment when the world felt connected, when love bridged impossible distances, when a television show became something sacred. And every year on the anniversary of that show, Steve Harvey receives the same message, a photo of Jake, now taller, stronger, still standing a little straighter, because he remembers what it feels like to wear a hero's jacket. The photos show him at baseball games, where he's become the team's starting pitcher, at school award ceremonies, where he's recognized for academic excellence, at family gatherings, where he helps his grandmother with her arthritis, always with that same proud smile that lit up the Family Feud studio that day. The message that comes with each photo is simple, but profound. Still brave, still proud, still grateful. Thank you for showing me what it means to care about people you've never met. Jake Martinez, Hero's son. Miguel keeps a recording of the episode on his phone. He's shown it to fellow soldiers, to new recruits who are scared about leaving their families, to anyone who needs a reminder of what they're fighting for. That's my boy, he tells them with pride. That's why we do what we do. Carmen returned to school to become a teacher, inspired by the outpouring of support her family received. She specializes in working with children from military families, understanding their unique challenges in ways that textbooks can't teach. She tells her students about the day when her son taught America what courage looks like, and how that courage lives in all of them. Alina continues to be the family's anchor, cooking Sunday dinners that bring everyone together, telling stories that connect the generations, and teaching Jake advanced Spanish so he can honor both sides of his heritage. She keeps Steve's business card framed next to a photo of Jake in the oversized jacket, a reminder of the day when strangers became family. The Johnson family from Michigan, who were supposed to be the Martinez's competitors that day, remained close friends with the family. They visit San Antonio every summer, their children playing together in Jake's backyard while the adults remember the day that changed all their lives. We came to win money, Mr. Johnson often says, but we left with something more valuable, a reminder of what really matters. The lesson 8-year-old Jake taught millions of viewers is simple but profound. Love knows no distance. Family connections transcend continents, and sometimes, the most powerful moments in television happen when we remember that behind every story is a human heart that wants to be heard, to be seen, to be loved. Steve Harvey learned that day that sometimes the game isn't the point. Sometimes an 8-year-old boy in an oversized jacket can teach you that the most important victories happen when you stop playing by the rules and start playing by the heart. Because that's what love looks like across thousands of miles. That's what courage sounds like in an 8-year-old voice. And that's what happens when a television show becomes a bridge between a father's duty and a son's love, proving that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest ones teach us the biggest lessons about what really matters.